Hey guys, Czar here. Hope all is well. Trust you're having a good day. It is Friday. Happy Friday to you, July 26th. Already almost August. Hard to believe, at least for me. Seems that this summer is moving along real quick here. This is the Three Sisters, as always, guys. Welcome to the pre-market. It's 9:28 and a half. I'm about a minute and a half away from the open here in New York. NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow 1-minute charts, VWAP, volume weighted average price with 2.5 standard deviations. Same thing, day in and day out, keeping it nice and boring and doing that on purpose. Here are the daily Three Sisters. Look at this, guys. We've had some significant breaking down here in the last week or so. We have dropped 10% from the high. That's a correction in a way. Certainly for now. We have inside days on the NASDAQ, see that there, and on the S&P and on the Dow. So 3 inside days. Weak to neutral here this morning. Kind of firming up a little bit now in the last little while here since the 8:30 news. In other words, bullish bodies for now on these inside days, but a neutral stance from a bigger picture standpoint. And then the market, of course, opening in the next 25 seconds. I will be putting you on hold, on pause, cutting out dead air, sideways grinding action, non-teaching moments, things of that nature to keep this video nice and tight, as always. But we'll be watching this thing very closely. Fridays, I tend to be a little more patient. Well, I'm pretty patient every day, quite frankly. But Fridays can be a little wonky sometimes. And so I'll have that in mind. And there we go, guys. Market is open. I'll put you on pause now. Wait for at least for this 1 minute candle to complete, and then we'll get in here and start talking about some things. All right, guys. There's the 1 minute open range. We are on VWAP on basically on all three. A little bit above on the Dow, ignoring the Dow for the most part lately, given that it's been doing. It's marching to its own drum or doing its own thing. Very often the opposite of what the S&P and the NASDAQ are doing. Looking like we want to drive down here a little bit on the NASDAQ. We are in a range structure here on the 30-minute, and again, inside or neutral day on the NASDAQ. I could put a zone marker here, guys. Talking to one of my team members or group members on this. This is a legitimate zone. Certainly, we pushed down very hard here during the New York session, and has been respected here in the UK session. I'll leave that there for now. And looking like we're driving down again with this bullish body on the daily and neutral stance for inside day. Not doing anything yet. We are still inside the open range here, the 1 minute open range on the NASDAQ. And that is a 47-point open range. Fairly big, not gigantic. Let's take a look at the S&P, shall we? Just to take a comparative look. Same sort of a range here. Also that push down from yesterday inside of the open range. And then the Dow just for giggles. And the Dow, of course, pushing up higher, doing a little bit, something a little different than the rest. And there's that push down zone again from yesterday's New York session. Nothing for me to do here, guys. I'm just going to sit and wait. Probably let quite a few minutes go by here before even contemplating what I'm going to do. I just want this tug of war here on this Friday at VWAP, right? In balance between the buyers and the sellers. VWAP, of course, is the volume-weighted average price of all transactions that have occurred in the future session. That goes way back to here last evening, guys, at 6 p.m. New York time. It is now 9:33 a.m. the following day. So the bulls and the bears, the longs and the shorts, the buyers and the sellers are in equilibrium here for the time being. Pushing up on the Dow, staying within the open range on the S&P, and staying within the open range here on the NASDAQ. I have no real bias coming in here today, guys. I often have some ideas of where I think things are likely to go, and I position myself for that. I actually didn't get a chance to do my normal mindfulness routine and ritual this morning. I was busy answering some questions from group members and what have you, and that's fine. But I just tend to be a little extra cautious when I haven't gone through my normal routine exactly like I would normally do. Pushing down again here on the NASDAQ. Pushing up on the Dow, right? It's a divergent behavior. Looking like we're rounding over on the S&P. I'm going to wait for this candle to close. This support zone is less important to me than this one up here, even though I didn't even have this one in here this morning. Although I did certainly take it into account. Just being patient here, watching this divergence play out. And just watching here, guys. Now the Dow and the S&P have crossed above the open range. Of course, Dow's been above pretty much from the first 3 minutes. I'm not doing anything here, guys. Nothing to do. Just watching this grind here, guys. Nothing to do. Be super patient here. This dropping down here, this weakness on the NASDAQ is interesting to me, but not without the support of the NASDAQ here today, given that it's Friday. Real mixed bag here today, guys. And of course, with Dow and the S&P above vwap, and right now almost above open range and above positive moving average configuration EMAs. A short is not looking particularly appetizing to me. All right, guys, we're back. You see the Dow's been having a little bit of a party here today. I used to trade the Dow fairly extensively, almost exclusively for many, many months, about a year ago or so. I actually moved over to the NASDAQ because it obviously has a higher VIX or volatility profile. But Dow can have some very clean moves, and on days like this, I sort of miss it. But that's just human nature. This is my vehicle of choice until VIX picks up across the board. And so I'm just going to deal with this lackluster behavior for now. All right, guys, we're back. Been waiting for this 10 o'clock news, which comes out in about 30 seconds. We'll see how that affects this market. Michigan consumer sentiment, guys, is final numbers for July. 15 seconds. So this is just giving some additional strength to the S&P and the Dow here for a little bit. We had a bit of a pullback actually on the Dow and the NASDAQ and back into the open range. So not much going on here today, guys. Pretty lackluster on this Friday. All right, guys, nothing for me here. This may be a no trade day for me. It's 10:02 a.m. pushing up here, trying to get above open range, but there's no real strength or power behind this, even with the support of the S&P and the Dow inside of this inside day here, and inside of this range on the 30-minute chart. Let me just put the zone back in. Clearly this was respected here, and this little pullback from Asia, this support zone from Asia, and then the pre-London session was respected and then rejected back up. So that just kind of solidifies that this is a range-bound area for now. And the reality is, after a big significant sell-off like this and the inside day on the daily and being inside this range here on the 30-minute chart, I don't see any potential for a setup here until we get out either above this range or below this range. And I'm not convinced that's going to happen here this morning in my 2-hour trading window. I trade between 9:30 and about 11:30, call it noon if you wish, when the twilight zone happens these days, really focusing on the first 2 hours of the regular trading session, whereas I used to trade all day in New York and all morning in the London session, waking up before 2:45, certainly before 3 a.m. when the London session opens, trading both sessions completely full, very often 6 to 10 or 12 trades a day for the Razor's Edge model and various versions of that over the years, and then many other models too, micro scalping models and position trading models and so on and so forth. But you get the idea. In this low VIX environment, though, I'm really tightening all of that up, and also to be a good example, I think, to other traders who really struggle to manage their impulses during extended trading sessions, anything more than about an hour, quite frankly, and most human beings, but most traders begin to lose the ability to manage their impulses, and that's a human thing. All right, guys, I'm going to put you on pause here. I may post this video just as a discussion on why not to trade sometimes, and this might be one of those instructionals. All right, guys, we're back, and it's 10:28. I'm seeing these prices now move up more or less in tandem above open range, but I'm not touching this thing. To me, it's just far too grindy, this range here. As long as we are inside of this range, I got nothing to do here, because this is all part of that inside candle. Now, inside candle is kind of a neutral candle. It's permissive to both sides, but it's also directionless. It doesn't give you really any guidance. And as most of you know, I like to see direction from the highest time frame if at all possible. And if I'm not getting that direction from the highest time frame, being the daily in my model, then I certainly need some clean direction on the 30-minute time frame, which is a very important time frame to me, and getting none of that, of course, here today. And I'm also looking for, but if I'm not getting a direction from the highest time frame, being the daily, then I'm looking for consistency and congruency and synchronicity amongst the three sisters, certainly two of them, and we've not had that here this morning. I know that some traders would be tempted to take a short here on the NASDAQ, given that we are in such a bearish environment on the daily overall, but without having the S&P being at least neutral inside of the open range or dropping down below, and with the Dow rallying strongly above, that's not in the cards for me. So the directionless daily, right, giving us no guidance whatsoever, and a bullish body really for the entire session. So if anything, signaling longs would be the play, and then not having that confirmation here to the downside on the S&P and the Dow. Again, the Dow less so these days. I'm really ignoring it to a large extent. But this no consistency amongst the three sisters is leaving me with nothing to do here, guys. I'm going to call it a day here at 10:30 a.m. I may come back if something amazing happens in the next hour. Otherwise, I am done for the week, done for the day. And I wish you an amazing weekend. Thanks for being here, gang. I appreciate you. Talk soon.